From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture in the ultimate adventure, life itself, and it is a lot of adventure these days. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Jennifer Landa.
And I'm Ken Knapsack.
We did it. We all said our names. We're off to a great start on this particular episode of a news show, breaking news from a long time ago. Before we get into it, we want to let you know that, as always, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, or anything that you can get to make sound. Maybe you can play it on an old Teddy Ruxpin. Who knows? This week, we are recommending the Rogue One novelization. Why? Because I was talking to my wife about it. She saw the new book that is, I think, well, we got it in the mail. I don't remember when it's actually coming out, but the Reign of Empire, Mask of Fear. And she was saying, hey, do you like this author? And I was like, yeah, he writes really rough, good political, visceral stuff. And she read the Rogue One novelization and loved it. So there you go. It's a recommendation from us and from my wife, Sarah, that you can listen to the Rogue One novelization today by downloading your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. All right, Ken, we are on to Asks.
That's right. We're asking for you to consider supporting us on Patreon. Hey, do you like your Star Wars podcasts alive and thriving? Patreon's a good way to do it. We're building to our next goal of 430 supporters. Once we paid supporters, once we get there, we're going to take an old classic Star Wars ranked episode and add images and kind of spruce it up and kind of share it with the world because they were never actually on YouTube in that kind of fashion. You know what I mean? So give us a chance. Support us. I'm asking nicely. Oh, I feel like I'm on a telethon. Oh, I feel like I've just slid down into a complete PBS. You'll get a handbag. You won't yet. Maybe. Go to patreon.com/ForceCenter to support us there, if you will. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. That stuff really, 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 really does help. So we appreciate that as well.
Yes, and if you want a tote bag, please get a marker and write ForceCenter on the tote bag in really rough handwriting, and then people ask you, what's that about? It's good viral advertising.
That actually might work more than a sleek logo tote.
Probably, just like absolutely, like maybe with the R backwards, like Toys R Us.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
As I slip from my other show's mug that I just ordered my own merch for that.
I love it.
Ken is busy promoting himself while I'm promoting Agent Dale Cooper.
Better choice.
Special Agent Dale Cooper. Jennifer, we are on to the life adventures section.
Yeah. You ask? No, I'm going to have something positive and Star Warsy to share. So I was we were looking at my dog Mala, and Mala, her hair is out of control. She really looks like a Wookiee, and especially because she was like jumping on my husband's chest, and she was like, her legs are so long they look like arms, right? Like Chewbacca's arms. And I was like, I went into the history of George and his dog Indiana, and I was like, but actually Stuart Freeborn and his son Graham Freeborn helped work on. I was like, Stuart Freeborn worked on Chewbacca. He's the one that designed it, and they used yak hair. And then his wife Kay was working on Carrie Fisher, and his son Graham was also in the workroom. I went on, and at the end, he's like, "Why do you know all that?" Like, it was from my Jedi beat. I spent a long time rewriting that script, and I basically shared my entire script section with him, and he just was like, he was not enjoying it.
He should be thumbsing up that video, I think. He's got a personal YouTube video.
I can't remember anything, you guys, but I remember that.
Yeah, just give him the link to the episode. He can watch it. He can rewatch it for us.
I think I have known all of those details, but hadn't really put together what a family affair it was for that group of people.
Yeah, Graham worked on Greedo, I believe is the correct answer. Yeah, he worked on Greedo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Kay did. I think Kay actually did work on Chewbacca. So I'd have to look back at my video, which is on our YouTube channel. Check it out. And we're just going to be promoting everything today.
That's it. And I'm making a note. The link's right above you right now on YouTube. There you go.
All right. Life adventure and a plug. Ken, do you have any plugs and/or life adventures?
Yes. You mentioned Alexander Freed. He is. He's probably, I have to say, one of my favorite Star Wars writers. Though the Alphabet Squadron was at times so dense. It's not a bad thing sometimes, right? It's not a cow jumped over the moon that you need all the time. Did he jump over the moon? Did he go into the moon? I can't remember. But I picked up. We got Reign of the Empire, Mask of Fear, and I picked it up. And I mentioned last week I just sat down to read it, and I'm still. It's a slow pace. I have not finished one chapter of the book, maybe 6 or 7 into the chapters, and I know it comes out, no spoilers, I think next week. I have not finished a chapter without going, whoa, how did he write this to this detail? You and I were talking off air, Joseph, last week that, Star Wars, we're going to talk about Star Wars and politics. The prequels are getting a lot of credit right now for being pretty connected to the times. But you could still say, hey, yeah, it's a general fascist playbook. And that's definitely at play here with Alexander Freed. It's just there's always one or two little details where like, did he just take a detail, remove the names that were in the headlines I read yesterday and put it in there? It's and maybe that means it's not a light Star Wars read you need right now. Sometimes it's okay to balance the real world and the engagement with it with your fantasy. But I think it might be just perfectly timed, almost to a dangerous level. I can't. We don't do the full reviews here on the books anymore, but I can't recommend this book enough. When it comes out, if you haven't got a copy, get it. It is stunning and good and a great read, even though it's painful. So that was my adventure this weekend.
It's a good one. I have not started reading the book yet. I'm trying to finish a couple of other books, and I think maybe it will probably help me. And I think some people are like, "Oh man, that book's going to be hard to take right now." And I think in a way, it will be nice to look the beast in the face via Star Wars. We'll talk about a lot more, which I think.
Yes.
I think a lot of us suffering through this in America feel wow, this is an unprecedented level of attack on democracy. And the word unprecedented feels so important because you're trying to get other people to pay attention to this is unprecedented in America.
Yes.
And I think to Alexander Freed's credit, to George Lucas's credit, to many of the storytellers of Star Wars credit, the fascism playbook is extremely precedented. So reading through that and being surprised, to me, there's that level of like you're talking about of like, it's so on the nose. It feels freaky. But like you're also saying, the sad truth is there's nothing freaky about it. It's the fascist playbook. It's it's known.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. How this baby country that we're in, still learning and growing, it might be facing this in a way we've never felt before. Then I don't know, since the beginning. But yeah, it's down to renaming things, down to just like, wow, here we go, here we are. But yeah, anyways, quite an adventure.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what has been renamed Sheev. Anyway, moving on to I had a life.
You did.
Main thing for me, I'm working away on the film and trying to be somewhat politically active. I did go and have a Valentine's date with my wife where we went to see Captain America at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and I enjoyed Captain America very much. Mini review, I don't think it is like the greatest MCU film ever, but it was really solid and had some great Star Warsian themes, I think, of trying your best to de-escalate and to find emotional connection to de-escalate when you can, and that, hey, anger maybe not always the best answer for all of your problems. And then speaking of things that are precedented and unprecedented in the sort of circle of Star Wars, we went to Mel's Diner in Hollywood, which is just a half block from the Grauman's Theater, because we've been meaning to go there for years and years. And we're like, hey, that'll be fun. And it's a 50s diner. It was started in the 60s, but it's that total diner aesthetic. And my brain has been so Star Warsified. I walked in, it's like, this is like Dex's Diner. Of
Ah,
course, actually, Dex's is like that diner, which
right.
George Lucas probably went to, and there are pictures of American graffiti in
Mhm.
the booths and like. But I so love that Dex's Diner aesthetic. I was like, oh man, I can imagine Obi-Wan sitting in here.
Totally. Totally. I have never been to that one. I've always been to the one in Sunset, and there's one in the Valley. Yeah, I saw your photos there. It looks great. Did you by chance get the butterscotch milkshake?
I
Mm.
did not. We
Okay.
didn't get any milkshakes. We
Okay.
tried to get a cocktail, and he said we're not doing cocktails anymore. I was like, oh, why? He's like, the bartender didn't show up,
Oh, oh my
and none of us
gosh.
know how. It was really fun because it is definitely like it's an old school Hollywood place, but we were there at like 10 or 11, and it
Mm,
was a diner, a
yeah,
late night diner. And it had a great vibe. So
love that.
Is that the
Jennifer, you look
one?
like you're processing Mel's Diner.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. I thought that I went to like the original one, which is the one on Sunset, but there's one in is it Hollywood and Highland? Or where is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the end of the Hollywood and Highland block, so it's technically a different cross street around the corner.
Aha. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Oh
I
no, it is
didn't.
Hollywood. It is actually Hollywood and Highland.
It's
Yes,
like
Yeah.
right
sorry.
by the
Yes,
Wax
it is.
Museum or
It's behind.
the
It's behind the
Ripley's?
Wax Museum. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
there's the
I've
Wax
been
Museum, and then
there.
there's the Hollywood History Museum, which I think
Yeah,
is one of the greatest secrets in
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood. Because from the outside, it doesn't look like much, but it's in the old Max Factor building,
that's
like
right.
the room where they came up with the color of Lucille Ball's hair.
Mm.
What color red was going to look good in black and white and color,
Oh
and
my
you can go to the
gosh.
room where it happened,
Yeah.
and they have lots of really great displays. And the building itself is this old Max Factor building, and I think because it's right by a lot of the more kind of kitschy touristy trap museums
Mm-hmm.
that people walk by it. But yeah, that
Yeah.
it's connected to Mel's Diner, the
Mm,
Hollywood History
mm.
Museum. So I suggest people checking that out too if you're visiting LA.
That's fun. Oh gosh. Now I gotta go over there. It's like so close, but it's one of those things that we don't get out.
Yeah.
We don't see our own city.
Yeah. No, that's what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. All right. Adventures. Let's move on to news, which is its own adventure. There's lots of little bits of news, but as I was looking at stuff, it was really everything kind of related to the new Jedi Order film. Multiple quotes from Daisy Ridley and a couple from George Nolfi that we have not yet talked about. So here's the deal. Daisy Ridley is currently promoting her upcoming action thriller film, Cleaner. So she's answering the old Star Wars questions, and she's getting to be a pro about, yes, I made another movie, but I know you're going to ask me about Star Wars. So she was asked by Inverse about the political nature of the Star Wars saga, and she answered, I feel like the Star Wars films are all political. I feel like it's the individual versus the big corporation or the big group. So I think they always have been. And ultimately, I think the films are emotional in that it's good and evil, which we can all can relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. But yes, I do feel those conversations are woven within the story, and I'm very excited to see what George does. So I wanted to start with kind of a big picture perspective on Star Wars in politics. I think we all three of us agree that Star Wars is explicitly political, and there are about 1 million George Lucas quotes and interviews to explicitly back that up. But what does it mean to us personally? What does it mean for Star Wars to be political for you as a fan, Jennifer?
I think when I think of Star Wars, I think the politics are about the power, right? Like who has the power to make the decisions for the galaxy, on how the galaxy runs. We see how how charismatic Palpatine can be, and how people trust him to do the right thing, and how he manipulates people, and how he comes into power. It's really been quite depressing to see how closely what we are witnessing right now in our country happened in the prequels. But like you guys said, history is cyclical. So yeah, but it's interesting because as a child, I didn't pick up on that it was democracy versus fascism. Like I was just like good guys versus bad guys, right? But that's the point, is that George wanted to have like this big theme, but make it accessible to people of all ages. And clearly, some people still have not gotten that message. When they're like, Star Wars is not political. I'm like, what? Are we watching the same stuff? Because I don't know. But Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, there's the getting it versus maybe some really impressive avoiding it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
emotional dodgeball of like, whew, got away from that
Mm.
obvious large thing flying toward my face. Um, that makes total sense, and I think we'll talk more about the balance of all of the fun of Star Wars, maybe obscuring the political, which I think is probably true for a lot of us when we're younger. It's lightsabers and good and evil and friends and family, and that isn't necessarily immediately tied in our minds to the political. But now, as a fan, Jennifer, when you're watching either like rewatching old stuff or watching something new like Skeleton Crew, are you hoping for the political? Are you looking for uh the connections to the modern world, or do you just kind of let it all wash over you?
I let it wash over me. I think because we do have such a wide variety of things that we're getting in Star Wars, right? That I'm not like needing that, because I feel like that need is getting met in so many different ways, in much more overt ways with like Andor, let's say, or even Skeleton Crew, which was a fun romp, but also had some really kind of scary things happening that felt very relevant. So yeah, I mean, but it's just in the DNA. So I know it's going to always be there. It's just like how much do you want to kind of, I don't want to say cover it up, but make it more of an accessible thing for medicine for me to swallow, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
medicine, but like sometimes I just want pure escapism. And so then I
Mm.
can watch like Solo. But it's Solo still has those themes within it, right? But it just makes it a
Deeply,
little bit
yeah.
easier to digest. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But yeah, that's why we love Star Wars, is that it's not just, silly. It's silly, good fun, but it does have these deep themes underneath.
Mm-hmm. Ken, how do you feel about Star Wars being political? What does that mean to you personally as a fan?
It means it's about life. It means about life, and this is where I've come to it on it. And yeah, we start at the point where we're all kids, and you're obviously not going to pick up on it. And because I think back in the day there wasn't a litany of podcasts telling you the deeper meanings of shows, or maybe just reacting to them and screaming "Yay!" We weren't forced or didn't have to analyze it any deeper than that. That's why I think we just kind of left it there as kids, and I think that happens time and time again for every generation. And Star Wars does need to do that. You mentioned Skeleton Crew. Yeah, I absolutely think Skeleton Crew is very political, but it's done in that zip zam boom way. And yeah, I'm with you, Jed. Like, I don't want to say it covers it up. I think it's actually pretty explicit. But I think when I think about Star Wars being political now, I think of not just about trade federations and safe and secure societies and emperors rising into the power or taking the power. I think of Solo. I think of that movie. We just had that great discussion with John and Lacey, Joseph and I, on Solo's Why We Love Star Wars. Check out that episode. But it was like, that is a movie about what the oppression actually looks like, how it actually
Mm.
destroys, how it tears down industries, how it tears down family structures or friend structures or just society in general, how it casts people out. It is about power. And I think Solo is perhaps one of the most political films, but it certainly moves in a different way. It speaks in a different language, so to speak, than Andor, or some of those great episodes of Bad Batch that are like here, right in front of you. It's politics. But I think every episode of Bad Batch is pretty political because it's talking about the emotions of politics, how it actually affects people, and how you view the world. And I think that's where I've come to appreciate Star Wars being political, and kind of what I mean. I mean the Solo. When I say Star Wars political to friends, I'm talking about Solo more than anything.
Mm.
It's a film I love, but like you, Jen, when I put it on in the garage, I'm just like, cool, Solo, right? Like, but when I'm having those conversations out in the wild, not with people who are like, it's not political, but just like talking about it, or having, I don't really like Solo. Like, well, why? But here's what's at stake. Here's what's going on. It's about survival for those on the outside. Blah 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 blah. And that's what's exciting to me and fun to me when it comes to talking about Star Wars and politics, is the Skeleton Crews, the Solos, and anything else that just kind of tells a story of life in this galaxy, and that story is inherently political. And it's fun to engage. And it changed me. I've been open about that. Discussing it here with both of you, discussing Star Wars on shows, has changed me in how I view politics and how I engage with them, because I see it on display in Star Wars in a pretty unique way for me to connect with, finally.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's been great to see your evolution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, Yeah, we'll discuss more, like I said, about the balance with the fun and the politics. But I think sometimes when we talk about Star Wars politics, it's easy to point to the explicit stuff,
Right.
the forward to the novelization of Star Wars, which actually came out before the movie. So you can argue some of the very first Star Wars storytelling at all starts with the prologue about how the government fell, it stagnated, greedy people whispered in an authoritarian's ear. He took control, and it starts political. I am the Senate is,
Yeah.
going back to a New Hope. He's wiped out the Senate, and we're going to point a big gun at everybody, and that's how we're going to literally control and manage this.
Hmm.
You can point to the explicitly political, right? But Solo to me is one of the best examples as well of how I absorb it as a fan, because I feel like at the end of the day, the main theme of Solo is it possible to have any personal freedom in this moment of the galaxy, or are we all just locked into horrific lives and horrific systems? So even the stuff in Solo that to me is whiz bang fun, I realize is more thrilling and more fun because it's Han and Enfys Nest and the people who have victories in that film clawing a little bit of freedom, and it's fun to watch Han Solo do wild and crazy things, and it would be fun in a pretty politically toothless context. But in this context, he's like, hey, maybe I can fly among the stars and kind of be my own guy and kind of do my own thing. Is that at all possible? So
Yeah.
every dumb, naive, daring thing he does is political. It's in the backdrop of all of this mechanized horror that doesn't want him to have any freedom. So I kind of fist pump at the action more because it isn't just whiz bang fun. It's whiz bang fun in the face of a horrific,
Hmm.
crime ridden dictatorship
Yeah.
that doesn't want him to have any freedom. Um, and I think for me, the other thing is about Star Wars being political is such. I think when we say the word politics in general in our culture, people are kind of imagining either really boring, detailed stuff.
Hmm.
Words like quorums, and Byzantine rules and articles where you try to follow along, but then it gets kind of boring. It's either boring or it's don't bring it up because everybody will fight.
Hmm.
So there's this sort of like, let's just separate politics, right? But you said it kind of politics is life. I would say politics is the interpersonal. It is literally the decision of how we want to work together as a society. How do we want to treat one another? What do we want to value? How much do we want to help other people? How much do we want to control other people? And I think Star Wars is really good at making the political personal. I think
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful things about the prequels is we can be really focused on Anakin's personal story of Anakin gives in to fear, and that fear leads him to anger and leads him to make this bad choice. And that's exactly what happens to the entire galaxy. A standard operating procedure of fascism: give somebody an other to hate. Palpatine stokes the legitimate concerns of the separatists.
Hmm.
He appoints horrific, violent military leaders to start a war to represent the separatists, and then he others the separatists, and he gets the rest of the galaxy so afraid of the scary other that they give in to their fear and give all of their power to Palpatine, just like Anakin does. There are two scenes in Revenge of the Sith where somebody bends the knee to Palpatine and willingly gives them their power. I think the story of politics in Star Wars is always personal. And in A New Hope, we can point to explicitly political lines like the Emperor has wiped out the Senate. But I think one of the most political lines in the very first film is Luke saying it's all so far away from here. And Obi-Wan going, that's your uncle talking. That's the don't do anything, stay out of it. It's not your fight. It is your fight. Politics is difficult, but it is just the choice of who we want to be. And that's what That's what Star Wars is always about, right? Of different people making the choice between good and evil, and what does that mean in any given scenario of who you want to be and who you want to help. Anyway,
No.
just a few thoughts about the politics in the interpersonal.
Yeah.
And I think for me it enriches my experience, because there are some days where, like, yeah, I just want to sit down and have some escapism and have some fun and look at my action figures. But when a new Star Wars show comes out, I enjoy it so much more if it's got some teeth and it's saying something not just about the individual, but how the individual is affected by the political.
I'm with you on that too. Where sometimes, if I feel an episode is a little light on that, not explicit stuff, but just kind of what you're saying, I just want to always watch a Star Wars episode or a movie and turn to some people and go, "See," like that's the feeling I want sometimes. See, but not always. Not always.
So Daisy Ridley always also says that she feels Star Wars is political because it's often about the idea of the individual versus the big corporation or group. Jennifer, do you agree with that take from Daisy Ridley about the politics of Star Wars?
I was trying to think about, and this is where I would need your guys' expertise, because this is really like prequels, Clone Wars stuff. I was like trying to think about the corporations that she's referring to. I don't know if she just meant like in our world, or if she's specifically talking about Star Wars. I don't know who I would think of like as a corporation. I know who in our world, how that plays out, and how money and corporations can buy access, give people power. You can buy our government for $250 million and suddenly have all sorts of access and become basically co-president, right? So, but I don't know how that plays out in Star Wars. Who are the corporations, right? I was like, there's tons of episodes, I think, in the Clone Wars.
I think the explicit corporations are like the Trade Federation,
Okay.
in the corporate alliance, and again, the story of the Separatists, maybe not super clear in the actual prequel films, but the story is there. Like, hey, they're people, normal people who are like, hey, I kind of got a problem with some of the things that the Republic's doing, and they're really not helping us much. They're not acting, and then here it comes, Space Amazon, Space Google saying, well, we have seats in the Senate and we will represent you quietly on the side. So, I mean, I think there's the explicit corporation, but ignoring just the word corporation and more about the big group, the individual versus the group. I think in the prequels, there certainly is lots of storytelling about organizations failing people, right? When we've seen that Naboo has been invaded by the Trade Federation, and there's stagnation where the Republic Senate isn't going to do anything about it. It's going to be stuck in this quagmire of big P politics. There's the stagnation of the Jedi Order itself. There is the criticism of large corporations having too much power in the Trade Federation, in the banking clan. How do you feel about that idea in the prequels about the individual versus the big group or organization that has started to fail?
Yeah, I think it's very relevant. I think it's actually one of the reasons why I liked The Acolyte so much, was that seeing how the Jedi were this group that were imposing their ideas onto another group of what they thought was right. And whether or not that was right or not is what makes the show so great, because you're like, wait, it's not right. But wait, they were kind of doing something good. So yeah, I don't know where I go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about the Acolyte, because obviously the Jedi came under some criticism, but for me, I also feel like the Coven, we were never fully given all of their what are their goals, but there was definitely some pressure. I feel like both both of the twins, May and Osha, were portrayed as individuals who were the Coven wanted them to fulfill a specific thing within the organization. The Jedi came along and were like, maybe our organization can help you. I feel like the Stranger is like, hey, I'm just trying to do my Sith rule of two thing, even though I've been kicked out. what I would like to slot you into my organization. So I think there can be an argument made that the Acolyte is a story about two individuals, May and Osha, who want things, and they're being sort of stuck by three different organizations who are saying, you must fit into our organization, and none of us are really going to do a particularly good job of listening to what you want as an individual. So I think that would be a great way that Star Wars is playing with this idea. Ken, what are your thoughts about the individual versus the big corporation or group or organization?
I see it a little bit as that the true fight is the battle of up versus down, which is dangerous to say in these times because it makes you sound like you're having a certain kind of podcast. That's an idea that gets, I don't even say twisted, but maybe misunderstood or definitely misused. But it is often, I do believe there's a pretty clear, stark difference between quote left and right to break it down into simple terms that we all know. But I look at Star Wars as very much being about questioning the intentions or the present intentions of big organizations or companies and the power that they obtain. And George's, you mentioned the millions of clips and the millions of things, but one of my favorite ones is just kind of explaining greed. And the more you want, the less fulfilled you are. Just that simple thing of you want all the power to feel safe and secure. You want the power to have your will imposed, and you get it, and it's still not enough. And that's the balance. That's the difference between light and dark in Star Wars and how it plays out. And so when I see or read this quote from Daisy, as this could be a story about Rey reestablishing the Jedi Order. It could already have been established. We've heard in the past. We don't know how much this is going to translate to the script that finally comes out. But hey, Jedi coming back. A lot of people in the galaxy, even those you might think are quote unquote good, might have a thought on that order returning. And I go back to George. In the prequels, we always talk about his fight against the DGA, but just like, I'm not saying the order needs to go. I'm just saying maybe you lost your way and are disconnected from your original intentions. Your feet aren't on the ground. And therefore, what's happening is it's actually on the individuals in the galaxy. Your feet are crushing those that maybe you were meant to support. That's what excites me about this, because that's kind of what we were talking about. It's not just simply I propose this legislation, and that's the politics that sometimes people can tune out on. This is the politics of people. This is not saying that all big groups or big organizations or systems have to go. It's not saying that. It's saying that some might have to go, but it's saying, why are they there? Why were they put there? What's the intention, and how does that affect the individual? And if someone's trying to say, we need the Jedi, and others are saying, well, blah, 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 that are maybe legit reasons, and maybe that's in Arabash, blah, 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 that she can come back with, no, here's why. And this is the story. It is the those with power, those without, and we got to help those without. And this can help. We need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Daisy Ridley is saying this in a very direct way. I think it is individuals against big corporations or groups when the corporations or groups have become stagnant and are not actually fulfilling the needs of the people, of the individual. Lucas had lots of run-ins with organizations that stymied him, movie studios, the famous Directors Guild fight, on to going to trying to build his museum and having it, voted down by people who didn't want a space museum in their backyard. There's a reason this man has been on the warpath. But I think that the Directors Guild thing, if by chance anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, there's Directors Guild rule about when directors' names appeared in films, and that you couldn't have the credits at the end. And for Empire Strikes Back, Lucas wanted to maintain the tradition that he'd set up in the first film, and just bring people into the film, into the fantasy, and then have the credit at the end. George Lucas obviously had nothing but respect for Irvin Kershner, right? So I think for him, it was an example of the Directors Guild, in theory, exists to support us as directors making creative, interesting choices. So you have lost your way by trying to attack me for this creative choice. And I think that's a great example of, stagnation. And I think that's the big thing, is that the political story that Lucas laid out, he almost always writes about. It's when it isn't that organizations are bad. Organizations are in fact deeply needed. It's when they become stagnant and can't function. I believe it's in that prologue in the New Hope novelization. It's certainly in George Lucas interviews that fascism comes when the government isn't working anymore. And we see that in Phantom Menace very explicitly of the planet's been invaded. It's a fact. We got video, probably. We got holo video, right? But we gotta let the Trade Federation block it with a needless blah, 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 all that. So I think it's the battle of the individual against the organization that has ceased to function. And that's in the prequels, right? Not just the Senate, but the Jedi in the Clone Wars animated series. There's lots of times, great episodes where they could take action, but they're a little politically afraid of how it might look, so they're stagnating. They're not doing things. And I think in like real world terms, we need political parties. We need a democratic political party, but a lot of anger right now isn't I agree with a lot of the policies. I'm frustrated with the stagnation. They're not responding to the moment. And that to me feels like a very George Lucas thing of like, it's not tear down the organization. To me, it's make sure the organization functions. I know there's some people out there who think the Democratic Party should be torn down, but I think it's important to me that individual versus organization, it really is about individual versus stagnant organization that no longer serves the causes it says that it does, because it's not doing enough. It's stagnating. And it's important to me for that, because you look at the rest of Star Wars storytelling. Star Wars storytelling isn't like, you know what? Total libertarian time. Everyone should be out on their own. Almost all of its storytelling is, we are stronger together. Ask your friends for help. Luke Skywalker can make the shot, but he can't make the shot if Han Solo doesn't show up. It's great that Saw Gerrera is out there doing this, but nothing's going to happen until we have a rebel alliance. How do the Mandalorians win in the Mandalorian television show? They put aside their differences and come together and work together. The stories of people coming together and working together in Star Wars are endless. So I think Star Wars is actually extremely pro-organization. It's just making the argument when an organization gets too large, it gets not just corrupt, like evil, it stagnates and can't do the thing that it's supposed to be doing. Sorry, I will jump off my soapbox. Jennifer?
I think that the fact that she said big corporation, that already has a negative connotation when we think about big corporations. So she's already thinking that this is not a good thing. Big corporations, are greedy. They don't care about the people. They're not personal. They, you know what I mean? So I think that already I don't think that she's talking about like organizations, although she does says group. But yeah, that's where I go. It's like these overarching, like big corporations. I was going to name a corporation. I'm not going to name the corporation.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't mean this to criticize what she's saying. I agree with what she's saying. I just think the nuance of it is stagnation. Ken, any other thoughts about organizations before we move on?
Well, you made me think of the great Star Wars line from Palpatine, enter the bureaucrats, both sides, am I right? Like, great moment.
Saying nothing of the fact that he's the one who engineered that, right? He has worked to make sure that there is red tape, that people get frustrated to the point of going, sure, let one guy be a dictator. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Daisy Ridley's great quotes, which I do not disagree with, echoed a very similar conversation with the new screenwriter for the new Jedi Order film, George Nolfi, in the British magazine Film Stories. George Nolfi said, if you think about George Lucas, the 6 movies that he did in the universe that he created, it's actually very steeped in broad notions of politics. It's not talking about today per se, but there's the empire's Nazism / Roman Empire, the democracy of the Roman Empire collapsing and becoming an empire, and the perennial story of human beings organizing themselves against chaos, and then the tools that help human societies tamp down on chaos becomes oppression. So that is really very core to what I think George Lucas is trying to talk about. And one of the wonderful things about science fiction and Star Wars, which is more almost science fantasy or space opera, is that you can raise the deepest issues without it feeling like a philosophy class or a political science class or something I read in the newspaper today.
Yeah.
I wonder if Mr. Nolfi feels different about some of the things that are in the newspaper today. But I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, Ken. Do you think because Star Wars is often very fun that the politics are harder for people to absorb?
Yeah, and by the way, this quote, you're hired, George Nolfi.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to see what we come up with here. Yeah. Look, this gets into a conversation with a phrase that is in danger, if not already being overused, of media literacy. But I think it's important. It's one of those things that I've been banging on for a while about just a large amount of people. We never, again, I go to our generation. It's not just our generation, trust me, but we weren't raised to engage with this kind of stuff, right? We just take the song on the surface. Hell, Afternoon Delight is about afternoon sex. We weren't told to, we just sang the song until Anchorman came along and made you think about it.
Right.
We were, my very religious mother, who leads exercises class, loves playing older songs for her class, which is elderly folks. And at one time she told me, she goes, I just love playing that song Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful spiritual song. I was like, Mom, it's about screwing. Have you not listened to it? It's about a lot of other things, but like, that's just this big problem. And that's why sometimes I'm glad we have I'm this Alexander Freed book. I need this right now. I need a thing that's going. This connects to that, and there's no 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here. We're going right to that. But sometimes Star Wars is 17 degrees away. It makes it easier for you talk about up top. I think now there's a lot of examples of people willfully ignoring the meanings of the art because there's a lot of people talking about it, and there's that scoffing of there you go, you're looking for political meaning and things again. But it's there, man. It's all there, and I think that's okay. It sounds like I'm almost angry at George Nolfi. I'm not. I think he gets it. He gets how it's going to work. I just I don't know to say it's our job, but it's like, again, I'm speaking from personal experience of what changed me. I never had to look at this stuff until about 2005, when as I've said on the show before, but to remix it, of like, why is Anakin quoting George Bush? Why? I had that moment in the theater. I don't get why. And then I had to stop and engage with it. Took me a while, but I eventually did. So I value what he's bringing here because I think Star Wars need to entertain. I think there's great value in it. Maybe it's up to us and others to do the C thing over and over and over again. Anyways, I don't know. I went on my rant because this is a problem in music. This is a problem in pop songs. This is a problem in 90s rock. How many times have I had to explain to friends the impression that I get is a song about the HIV/AIDS scare? It's not a fun dance song by the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. It is, but this is what it's about. Oh man, you ruined the vibe. No, it's art. It has meaning. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. You don't get to turn away from that.
Yeah. I think this is a fantastic episode of ForceCenter to pass the soapbox around. So Jennifer, I offer you the soapbox. How do you feel about that? This balance of Star Wars is fun, and that can sometimes obscure what's right.
It
there
does. Yeah.
Yeah, what I found most shocking is people who should be seeing themselves in the Empire or seeing themselves as the villains, and they see themselves as the rebels and the Jedi, and I see them on X sharing these thoughts, and I'm like, how could you possibly think? And I don't know if it's that they're trying to present themselves as this way, as that they're heroes and the good people, or if they genuinely believe that. But that's the thing about art, is that people are going to view it through their own lens and find what they want from it, or they're going to not want to see it at all for being political, and it's just wizards in space, right? But what's interesting is like Rogue One, which is a very political, I think, film. That was one where I had friends who are not Star Wars fans who were like, "This is amazing," and they're not like even overtly political people. They're not really clued in that way. They just were like, "This was awesome. I love this. This is the best Star Wars film, a long time." Blah blah blah. So I think that's what makes Star Wars so great, is that it can play on those levels. I mean, I don't know. Like we're not going to get like a Dick Cheney movie from Star Wars. You know what I mean? We're not going to get Vice from Star Wars. I would not expect that. It's going to appeal to a broader audience. That's why it makes $2 billion versus the 75 million. So, you know, it has to play on multiple levels.
If George Lucas was writing episode 10, we might get Chick Daney, the New Republic.
That's why we love George. Is that he? I mean, but this guy gets it. Is he British, George Nolfi?
I don't know.
Because if he's speaking to the British magazine film, he's just so eloquent and he's just saying it. I feel like sometimes American filmmakers try and like self-censor themselves, or they try and dance around it because they don't want to offend people. And he's like, no, Nazism, Roman Empire, here it is.
I do love, Jed, that you were like, is he a non-American because he's so eloquent?
Catch that? Listen, there's a reason why all these British actors are so damn good.
Anytime we say something eloquent, we've been given a statement from a British person, and we're secretly reading it.
I mean, this is what the rest of the world sees as Americans now. We're really burning bridges.
Go ahead, Ken.
Quick note. What you touch on something, Jen, that I love. Like, as my stand-up has changed and involved. Like, look, I love a good dirty joke or a dumb joke. I do a lot of them. But there's some things where I try to have a little higher meaning. I was talking a couple years ago to a friend of mine. I was like, I just kind of want every set for me to be able to say something important. And he just kind of simply went, awesome. Yeah. Don't forget to make them laugh. Which is that job. So I think there's a little bit what's going on here too. You do have to entertain, and I don't have a problem with the Star Wars fan just going, Rogue One, the last 30 minutes, boom, boom, boom. Like, yes, because that's why I love it too. I cry when Admiral Raddus announces the Rebel Alliance because that to me is a very political moment. But that's just my journey; it doesn't have to be yours. So, anyways, it's a balance, and that's what I think he's talking about. Sorry, Joseph, continue.
No, I think you bring up really good things about the actual George Nolfi quote, Jennifer. I want to follow up. So when he says it's not talking about today per se, but there's the empire's Nazism / Roman Empire, and I think that's exactly correct. It was a cautionary tale where the empire was standing in for dictatorships and fascist regimes across time. Tony Gilroy is on record of saying, "Hey, that's what the empire is." So we're trying to portray that, but. Jennifer, you said that you kind of feel it's bold for George Nolfi to just say empire's Nazism / Roman Empire. The bad guys in the original Star Wars are literally called stormtroopers, the same title that was used for Nazis. It wasn't subtle in 1977. Do you feel like that people are so afraid of the politics of Star Wars that even calling it Nazi-like when stormtroopers are literally named after stormtroopers? Do you think we have fallen that far from 1977 where that was explicit?
Yeah, I think it's just like, can you imagine George Lucas saying the things that he has said for years? I don't think that, it's not that he wouldn't be able to get away with it now, but I think that people would really get angry at him for calling a spade. I think that's all that it is. I mean, and I love J.J. Abrams and I love Rian Johnson and all these filmmakers, but it is a little bit more of a dance that we have seen, which has kind of actually led us into this horrible situation that we are in now, where people are trying to keep it not vague, but just like, see what you want to see in it. And we're just presenting this, or like they maybe kind of dance around it. But I think it's more challenging to call it out, as we have seen, right, with our own eyes. Like this, we're not going to sanitize it. He's saying this is the history, and not trying to dance around what it really is, or like sugarcoat it,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Michael Moore. Like Michael Moore's films are entertaining. Like he's presenting all this stuff and they're documentaries, but they are entertaining. And so like George Nolfi, he gets it. He's like, yeah, we're going to bring in these deep themes and all this stuff, politics, but it's going to be enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I wonder if too, like times have changed so fast from 2016 on, but even going back to 2014, 2015, you mentioned JJ and you spoke positively of him and Ryan, and we're in a corporate shareholder era too, which is also part of things as well. But going back to that run up to Force Awakens, where he was just like, oh yeah, one of our ideas was like, what if the the former members of the German government in power in the 30s in South America reformed at a level that you couldn't ignore or just whisper or think was a conspiracy theory. That's kind of the First Order. He had said that a few times, and I think there was a lot of like, yes, history, and then that became present day in a way, and it wasn't engaged with it. I remember a friend of mine, we were talking, and he'd worked in the space as well. No longer does, but he would get upset with some of his colleagues who had, it's fair to have, again, criticize Force Awakens or the art, and that's what our job was, but there was also part of him, he was like, are you not getting the value of the big point, and why aren't we discussing that? And I was always thankful that from the beginning, Joseph, you showed up, let's discuss beyond just what we're seeing on the screen. I think that's one of the big things we enjoy doing, and I hopefully think it's part of our value. But going back to, again, this isn't to defend JJ or this and that, but even then, I'm backing off on it, I guess. He was pretty explicit in 2015. I just don't think a lot of people were prepared for it to be so important and present in our day.
Hux's speech in the shot of that arm gesture that the First Order stormtroopers make are not even remotely subtle.
But
so
people
I do
didn't
think
get
it is
it.
a choice of how much we choose to engage. You know, I think it is less about media literacy, although I entirely agree with your soapbox, and more like there's media literacy where like people just sing along to the chorus and don't listen to the verses, like you're talking about of the songs, right? And then there's kind of media goggles of Hux made a bloviating, absolute fascist speech, and then a well-known real-world fascist arm gesture in response from the troops literally named after real-world fascist stormtroopers. That's looking away to not engage with it when it is that exceedingly blatant in its connection to real-world politics.
And to come back with, what I understand on the surface is, well, why was it just X-Wings and TIE Fighters? Why did they? It's just kind of the Empire redone, like especially going to your scene you're talking about, the Hux scene. It is just like to not push past just that initial film criticism of, I mean, I would have loved new designs. Yeah, that's actually a fair point. But what's going on in this scene? What's going on in this movie? It's literally them going, yeah, that worked in the past, but it had a bad ending. Let's retry that with the same things. Like,
yeah.
And I think the problem is that the conversation when The Force Awakens became about Rey being a quote unquote Mary Sue. Oh my gosh, they have a black stormtrooper. Those types of conversations really dominated the online space, the YouTube space, the podcast space, so that we really weren't even talking about like the themes that you're talking about that were right in front of our face. And the people who really should be paying attention to that had written it off because they're like, oh, there's a girl who's suddenly a powers. And I'm like, well, duh, what do you think that freaking Luke Skywalker? Like, I mean, it's just like, oh, don't get me started on that. But it was kind of maddening. We couldn't actually dive into the film and the themes. Well, we could, but a lot of people couldn't because they were too focused, like, on
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, going back to the big picture of the fun of Star Wars is that I think the fun can obscure it, but I think Lucas had like three prongs that he was almost equally interested in, and I think in different interviews he emphasizes different ones, and I think one of them is absolute real world politics. I think he was also very interested in Joseph Campbell-esque hero's journey, mythology, and sort of the spiritual mythology with all of the Force stuff. And then I also think he's like, there's a part of him that is just like a kid who wants to enjoy the weird pulp thrill. And I think those many other ingredients, many other genres, but to me, those are the big three: real world politics, spiritual mythology, and weird pulp thrill. And he puts them in a blender, and you can go on an impassioned speech about how obvious the politics are of Star Wars, and somebody could just pull up a clip of the Opie farting in Jar Jar's face and go, really? It all exists together, and it is awkward.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons I love Star Wars. That's one of the things that makes it feel human and organic, because it came from George Lucas, and he said, I like all three of these things, and I'm going to make them kind of equally important at all times.
Yes.
So I don't mind if somebody goes, I just want to watch Star Wars for the uplifting family story. I'm feeling really spiritual today, and I want to engage with what the Force means, or just I like weird aliens and cool starships, and I want to look at those today. I don't mind anybody choosing to engage with an element of it that they like. What bothers me is to deny the political.
Yes.
I don't mind, and I do that for myself. Some days I'm just like, you know what? I just want to look at a weird action figure and laugh at Graga. But the scene with Grog can be traced to politics. It's always there. Skeleton Crew is political because all of these people ended up in this situation because of the fall of the Republic. Jod would not have had that horrible life. At-Aten wouldn't be in that state of utter confusion and isolation. It's all political always. I understand wanting to take a break from looking at it only through that filter, but it bothers me when people try to deny that the political filter is there always.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Fair enough. All right.
I've danced to the impression that I get by the Mighty Mighty Bosstones because it's a great danceable song. Hell, the Dancing Bosstone dance to it. But it's like, yeah, I'm with you. You don't get to ignore all of it.
In an effort to have a fun and uplifting moment here on the podcast, Ken, what's a scene or moment in Star Wars where the politics are what makes the moment fun or uplifting? I think we can easily think of like, hey, here's political moments where the horror of fascism is on display. I Am the Senate, Hux's speech, endless examples of moments where the horror of politics gone wrong are apparent in Star Wars. But are there moments where like that's political and it's what makes the moment fun and uplifting?
I don't know to steal your answer, Jed, but anytime an Ewok is kicking the ass out of a stormtrooper, the least of us coming together, Leia seeing it, the value in looking at these native creatures and not seeing what you can take from them, but seeing what you can do with them. Like, I think I look at that. One that comes to mind, I guess it's not. I find it fun, but I also think it's oddly uplifting. We talked about it before. You mentioned Enfys Nest, going back to Solo. I love it's not just a reveal when she takes her mask off. It's the way she's like, Sai, I need help. Let's get a drink. Community, connection. This is who I am. I took this mantle from my mother. We're not marauders. We're rebels. And I need help, man. And I'm tired of fighting with you. Here's what's going on. I love that moment. I'm moved by that moment. She's the new face of the rebellion to me in that moment. She's this young woman who probably didn't want to fight, had to, picks up the mantle. And it's done with these pesky, dumb scoundrels and the one smart woman in the corner that she probably knows is smarter than the rest of them. But she's kind of like, sigh. Let's get a drink. Let's talk about how we can help. I love that moment. I find it uplifting and fun.
Yeah, that's a great answer. How about you, Jennifer?
That's so good. You got to have an Enfys Nest show. I go to Skeleton Crew, and there's taking the opposite side. Jude Law, when he's giving the speech to the pirates and trying to get them to his side, and he's saying, you want your farm, and like, why are we fighting for scraps? And it was this moment where I was like, yeah, they have been failed. The government has failed them, and here they are, like having to survive in this way. They don't want that kind of life. This person wants a farm, right? I just thought it was really great, and it was really humanizing. Even though obviously we don't want to root for the pirates, but boy, Jude Law made me want to cheer him on.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think that that's the talk about what is politics, what is government? Is like, how do we want to treat each other at the end of the day, and like, do we want to make it possible for people to have their glow wheat farms or not, or do we want them to always be hungry and therefore make not great choices? Yeah. For me, there's a lot of moments, some really direct, that are like, that is political and it's fun and uplifting. Uplifting Brazo's brick in Andor.
Yes.
That's pretty explicit. That's not even remotely subtle. The Battle of Exegol and everybody showing up, the really explicit line of it's not a Navy, sir, it's just people. I really think, especially in the moment, in the context that film was made, I think Battle of Exegol is about voter turnout. It's about saying, this feels like it is absolutely unbeatable. It is
Mhm.
unbeatable. They have too much
Mhm.
power. Unless we all show up in our dinky little homemade ships that somebody duct taped a blaster to the top of
Right.
after hearing Lando's speech. He didn't go and get this secret, uh, uh, corporate sector army. He got everyone to show up and believe in this incredibly difficult thing to hold in our minds, that I feel like I have next to no power. I feel like anything I do is a tiny little drop in the bucket, but I need to show up and drop my tiny little bit of power in the bucket, because if enough of us do, it will make a difference. It's the spark that the resistance was trying to inspire, and that's the fire that comes is the incredible voter turnout. And and that was the battle that was lost this time.
Mhm.
We did not get the voter turnout. He,
Mhm.
he did not get more votes. The Democrats did not get enough. Not enough ships showed
Mhm.
up to Exegol in the real
Mhm.
world, is why we're in the moment we're in. So so when they do show up and Poe gets that relief of, I've been the guy, posting on social media going, there's a protest today, and
Mhm.
finally everybody showed up. So that's one. I tried to think of like, what's a moment like from the original trilogy that as a kid I would never have thought of really being political, but when I take a step back, go, yeah, um, the a scene I have done in a video game about 8,000 times, just the taking down of the walkers on Hoth.
Mhm.
You can look at it as a total, like, that's just such a cool action moment. It's so inventive. It's a cool moment for Wedge, uh, but just it's these tiny little ships finding a clever way to stop the march of this massive Imperial tank, a literal stomping
Mhm.
march that crushes everything in its path. That image is just entirely the little guys
Mhm.
stopping the march of imperialism. And that's one of the most just like fun, cool
Yeah.
moments of Star Wars, but just implicit in the imagery is politics.
Yeah. I
David
mean,
and Goliath's story,
yeah.
with
Yeah.
reminding for people who've been sharing that they've been Goliath. David is actually the one that we should be rooting for. I saw some Republican who's like, David and Goliath, we're Goliath. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that fits.
Yeah, looking forward to yeah. I want to share one more because I think it will hopefully lead us into our next question here. I was thinking of just kind of a fun moment from Attack of the Clones that I've always liked, which is Obi-Wan jumping through the glass to grab the droid in Attack of the Clones. Um, I think the criticism of the Jedi organization in the prequel era is that they become stagnant. They become very cautious about taking action. And we even get Obi-Wan and Anakin debating about this. Anakin is pushing to go past their mandate because he loves Padme and wants to impress her and wants to be a big man and defend her. But he's also got a little bit of a point of, the Jedi are being real cautious of just investigate instead of resolve the problem. Someone is trying to murder a senator, and you got ice flavored ice eating Kiadi Mundi up there going, oh, we already know the answer, and you got Padme going, no, I think you're full of crap. And you got Obi-Wan going, I should just follow the rules, and the mandate is just investigate. Don't do anything about it, just investigate it.
Oh my
And when
gosh,
the
that's
moment
awful.
comes, Obi-Wan isn't like, let me stop and think about it. When the moment comes to go, do you follow the mandate or do you
Mhm.
effing do something? He jumps through the goddamn glass and tries to get to the real answer and solve the actual problem. It's a political moment.
Mhm.
Gosh,
Mhm.
I need to watch that. It'll make me feel better.
He's a political idealist, and I like
Mhm.
ice.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan doesn't even like politics, or he doesn't like politicians.
I
I
like
should say.
politicians.
Anyway, so discussing Jedi stagnation with both Daisy and George talking the politics of Star Wars. What does that mean for our hopes of the new Jedi Order film? Can you spoke to this a little bit already? But Jennifer, what does all this political conversation or acknowledgement from the star and the screenwriter make you hope for the film itself?
I think they're setting expectations for people to be prepared. I don't know. I think that this is great. I think it's great that they're being so explicit, and that I don't know. It's not that I wouldn't think that politics would factor into this film, but they really are making it seem like this is the central theme. This is what it's about. It's not just about, Jedi fighting, having good action. It's going to be something deeper, and that's what we would expect of our Star Wars.
Hmm. Yeah, I go back to what Charmaine Obed-Chinoy just said very briefly in London when the film was announced, that the new Jedi are rising, and there are a lot of people who don't want that. They don't want a group who goes around saying, "Hey, you can't do this
Mm.
to this community. You are breaking the rules. You are, uh, hurting people, and we're going to stop you." And I think a lot of the criticism of the Jedi from Lucasfilm is from Lucas's films has been stagnation, and it's what Last Jedi is about. It's Luke being afraid of, like, every time I think I'm helping people, I feel like I'm putting my thumb on the scales and contributing to the cycle of violence. And what Ray is trying to get through to him is like, but people are really hurting and they need your help, not just as inspiration, your actual help. And he comes up with a way to say, I can't stagnate. I can't just hide. I have to actually do something to help. I don't want to make the problem worse. So I have to be very intelligent and creative about what I do to make a difference. And here's what I can do to make a difference. And it's nonviolent, but it makes a difference. But Last Jedi is, I think, a criticism of Jedi stagnation. Jedi train, get those lightsabers to do something, to take action. So I'm hoping that it is a film about, look, the Jedi need to be cautious, they need to be respectful, but they can't let caution and respect turn into, we just sit and hide and train, and we don't actually get involved and don't actually make hard choices and don't actually upset the system by helping people. I hope it's a film about sort of anti-stagnation. Ken, any thoughts on what you hope the film will be?
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. I think it will be a little bit more of a balanced view. This isn't going to be an Andor style show. In fact, not to lean into cynicism, but it's going to be tough for a lot of these creators in a big studio system right now to push through direct things. That's a reality. It's maybe not even cynicism; it's a reality. So I hope they find ways to get the message in there. And based on some of these quotes today, especially from Nolfi, I think they will. But I do want it to be a film that is about the politics of life and the politics of making a decision on that, jumping out the window. That's a great way to look at it with Kenobi. And I could joke and say, I want it to be fun, but I want it to be good and all those good things. But yes, I think they've got a story to tell. If all the players stick with it, Daisy and Shameen and Nolfi, writers can change. I got it, but he's in, man. These quotes are great. I hope they have this message of Star Wars is political, but the politics are on this micro level that you might not even know you're absorbing. Despite us talking a lot about direct meaning, this, that, and all the stuff, that's what I hope for in an era where you are seeing already. Powers that be go for the art, go for those with the message. So I hope that's my hopes, that it's present in an entertaining fashion.
Yeah. So there are also some quotes about the general progress of the film, as well as the nature of it. Daisy Ridley talked to comicbooknews.com about George Nolfi's work on the script and the progress of the film. She said, I have not read the latest script, but I know what's happening and I know the story. And I think what feels really good is that George is a phenomenal writer. We're making sure that this story is the best way. This script is the best way to tell the story. And I think it will be worthwhile for everyone watching it. I am very excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
These quotes are, are from interviews. So they're very natural. I think that this turn of phrase that Daisy Ridley uses a couple of times, the best way, is really interesting. Jennifer, what do you think that tells us about where the project is at, the way Daisy Ridley is talking about it?
I think that they have a very clear idea of what the story is, where the story is going to go. They have their beats. Everyone's kind of on board with this, and it really is just now about like whose style of writing or reshaping what is already there. So yeah, they're that's why they have been changing writers. Is they're trying to find the best way to tell this story, which they clearly already have an idea of.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I really agree. I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot in terms of writing and any writing advice that I ever give people is if you know the what, then you're just figuring out the how. Um, if you know you want to tell the story of there's this young farmer who discovers that he has the power of the force and he meets up with people and he uses the force and he helps deal a blow against the empire. Like that's the story of Star Wars. There you go. That's the what. You know it. Now the how. And I think the fact that she's saying the best way makes me feel like they know what the story is about. They know where Ray is emotionally at the beginning and where Ray is emotionally at the end. But the how might be how far along is the school? What is the conflict that best draws that out? How do we turn that into a satisfying and surprising third act? How open do we leave it for sequels? All that how stuff. It really excited me to be like, it wasn't a, yeah, we're figuring out how old she is, if it's about a school, if it's about, it's not the what, it's the how that they're iterating on, which I think is fantastic news. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it speaks to a positive progress, a film that's going to be made as best as you can in these times, in its own time, which is why I'm okay with some of the shuffling. There's a lot of things to get lost in the weeds on. Is this going to be connected to the Kinberg films? You hear that rumbling. You know that we talked about Derek Hoffman joined the team last week, and there's a lot of those kind of things. But more than anything, I'm encouraged by what you're talking about. About they are not only moving forward, they're finding out how to move forward in terms of their story. Everyone's excited. The fact that Daisy's been so open and at times honest with what's going on, with what she can say and what she knows, is encouraging to me. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I like that best way. We're looking at the best way forward.
Yeah. She also spoke to Collider about her level of involvement with the development of the film. I believe she's asked if she was technically a producer. And she says, I don't know that I'd be a producer on it, but I certainly have been very involved. I'm involved in, well, not very involved, but I'm involved in as much as I know what's going on. I know the story. I know what's going on with the script. So I'm aware of all that. And I think what's been really wonderful over the last few years is being more involved from the start to finish, really coming to set knowing this is the absolute best way we can tell this story. These are the best actors for the job. This is the best crew for the job. Having that confidence is so lovely. And it's not that I didn't have that before, but I'm much more cognizant of it now. So in that way, I'm looking forward to turning up, really knowing the ins and outs of what the journey has been. And we're arriving at the absolute best place to tell this particular story. So again, really emphasizing that the story is known. It's the how and the who and all that. So Jennifer, from your perspective as an actor, what's the advantage of an actor being so totally informed of the big picture process of making the film?
I mean, I'm surprised that she's not a producer. I know that when people become very successful, they want to become producers on their projects, not just for the money, but for the control, the say that you get to, because as an actor, you don't have any say really, unless you're maybe big time. And even then you're beholden to your director and it's collaboration, blah, blah, blah. But so for her, it sounds like they are really involving her in all these steps and they're checking in with her, which is really, really cool. They want her on board. They want her to stay on board. So I think it's wonderful that she's able to say, you know, I don't know if Ray would actually think that or do that, or maybe she offers some input, but it sounds like she's quite happy with the way things are going. And that's encouraging.
Yeah. I imagine it is, you're getting ready to play a scene and you're just thinking about that scene because you've already gone over and over, like, is this the best way? Are we starting the story at the right point? Like, now I'm really just thinking about the scene and I have trust of everyone that's involved. I have trust of the actors. I also think it's great prep for being the ambassador of the project, which is an actor's responsibility these days. When this film eventually comes out, she's going to be one on all those talk show couches going, now, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And she will be prepared to answer those questions and be the ambassador that actors have to be these days. Ken, what do you think about an actor being informed of the big picture process?
Yeah, I think it's a natural evolution. You start as a little piece. You know, she was a bartender or whatever what she was when she got the call that she was cast. We always joke about the one headshot we had of Daisy Ridley back in the day when the stories of her casting broke, and she's grown up here, and it's not an easy thing to go from that to where she is now. Especially for a woman in the industry still, and I'm encouraged that she's involved, and I think it's important for an actor on this scale to have more say. Yeah, the producer credit comes up a lot, and sometimes that could be surface, and other times, it's like Cassian Andor and Diego Luna, one and the same. He's got to say, obviously, it's Gilroy's ship that he's driving, but you need Diego Luna on board. You need Daisy Ridley on board for this. I'm surprised she said, I don't know if I'm going to be a producer on it, which she still might. But regardless, her opinions, her desire to do it, her what I feel is an affinity for Sharmeen Obed-Chinoy, that she'll speak up for her if there ever comes a time where others are trying to remove her. I think this is what we need our Rey to be. So on an overall scale, this makes a lot of sense. This is what happens with the actors as they move forward. And for Daisy Ridley as Rey, this is encouraging as well.
Mm-hmm. And just speaking a little generally about Daisy Ridley herself, she's been making film after film,
Yes.
a lot coming out, including this new one, Cleaner, coming out soon. Jennifer, where do you see her career going ultimately?
I think whatever she's inspired by, she seems to be, just when she gets a story that she really wants to do and I think challenge herself, she seems to really want to play these roles. There was that one film recently where she was the swimmer,
Young
and
Woman in the Sea, yeah.
yeah, and I heard an interview with her, and she was talking about like how challenging it was physically, and like she had a fear of being in the water, and like, I just thought, wow, that's really impressive that she's not resting on her laurels. She wants to be out there and really challenging herself as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to me to see if she ever landed kind of that second iconic role, or if that's what she wants. Because I feel like she's kind of like, of this trilogy, she's kind of the Harrison Ford of like, I
Mm-hmm.
do all sorts of different pictures, and I'm also very comfortable being I'm Ray. Harrison had some moments where he was grumpy about being Han. But man, if she landed her kind of like Indiana Jones role, and she was Ray
Mm-hmm.
and this other icon, and then she also was just like, well, if a swimming movie sounds good, if an action movie sounds good, if a historical drama sounds good, if I want to be a one player in a murder mystery, that sounds good. Like, just a consummate big name actor. I think she's heading in that direction. I would love that for the woman that we met
Mm-hmm.
through being Ray. Ken, what are your thoughts?
You're obviously invoking our favorite Empire Dreams moment with Harrison Ford. I can get to work.
Yes.
Yeah, I see her. It's funny because she's been part of the biggest franchise in the history of all things. But I still see her with a lot of room to emerge to a not just higher level in terms of prestige, but just her name on a project means something. I think I look a little bit at like what Margot Robbie has done before, but leading up and now through Barbie, where it is no longer just you cast her. It's like, this is a project she's putting out, and I think there's already to that level. But I think that could become more of where she goes. Not necessarily where she's not necessarily directing, but that she's like, I'm not. You're not just casting me. I'm here to make this, and it's part of my vision. And I think that'd be great going forward, and especially in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll wrap it up. Any other thoughts about the new Jedi Order film, Jennifer?
No, I was surprised by how much news came out recently about this, which makes me think, and obviously there's, interviews and whatever, and she's already talking about this new film that she's in. But it definitely does feel like there's more momentum happening. And that's exciting. Because we want this film to be made. And so any news about it is exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm thrilled to have the quotes about Nolfi. I'm thrilled to have the in from him, and the idea that the story is known. It's just figuring out the best way to tell it makes me feel like that at least part of the big corporation that is Disney/Lucasfilm is really fighting to make this film happen. I really, really want it to happen. I would love for it to really get on track and be announced as is the next film. after The Mandalorian and Grogu. I know there are reports to the contrary, rumors, but I really hope that this film makes it out because it is fascinating to me on many levels, including the political. Ken?
Yeah, this remains one of my most anticipated Star Wars projects, and despite what a lot of people with red eyes in their thumbnails and shows that will tell you that Star Wars isn't political, people want to see this character going forward, and people at times I think need this character to go forward. But this isn't just about the character of Rey, a character I love deeply, but a story of going forward and establishing a Jedi Order, but establishing or reestablishing a organization that's out there to help. They're saying things I love about this, and yeah, I have some struggles with some of the rumors and everything. I worry about the Kinberg trilogy absorbing this in a way that's harmful to the vision that's being talked about here. I do have that. There's the business side of it, but I also think as long as Daisy is become who she is, she beyond just has opinions about her character, she knows what she wants to do here, and if you don't have her, you don't have this story. So I'm pretty confident that we'll get a Rey film, and I hope it is the film that is being discussed in these interviews here.
Very much agreed. As we wrap up here, we have been doing some shout outs to charities and organizations, non-stagnant organizations that can help people in difficult times. So Jennifer, what would you like to share?
Something I was thinking about recently was how talking to the people in our lives is really, really important. Where people get their information from is obviously very important. And if we isolate those in our lives, family and friends who have different beliefs, that can actually be harmful, even though it's really difficult to have those conversations when we're like, you're living in an alternate reality. Having those conversations is a way that we can change people's minds. It's why community organizers do door knocking, right? Because they want to be able to talk to people in the community and have these face-to-face conversations. Arguing with people on social media is not necessarily going to bring about the change that we want. So I would recommend check in with the people in your lives. Talk with them. I know you both have, and myself, we've been having these tough conversations, and it can be maddening, but it really is the only way that we're going to be able to get information about what's been happening and present the reality to, challenge what they've been seeing and reading about and maybe hearing about from their other friends. So talk with people, give them a call, text, have a lunch. That's my ask this week.
I think that's really good, and I think a thing I've been seeing discussed, which I think is really great, is there are people who only get their news from propaganda sources. Fox News has gotten out of lawsuits by saying we're not actually a news organization, we're entertainment, and yet they're legally still been allowed to call themselves Fox News. There's people who are kind of in the tank for the fascism, and I think a lot of times when we think about talking to people, it's those people. And that's a really hard conversation. But I think there's also all of those people in my analogy who aren't going to show up to Exegol because it's all so far away from here. And I had a talk with a person in my life who normally does just like, I just don't like stressing out about politics. Real life is my neighbors. Real life is the people next to you. And I just don't like, I don't like getting all worked up about it. And this person had a friend who they really care about who's like basically like, I can't function, I can't sleep because all of these threats are coming for me now. It's happening to me now. I'm being hurt now. This isn't far away. It's your neighbor. And this person who normally is like, I kind of just like to stay out of it all, was like, I guess I got to download that 5 Calls app. And I think it isn't necessarily just talking to people who are really indoctrinated by Fox News, but also people who are like, yeah, it all works itself out. I don't get involved.
Yep.
I think that's great. For myself, I continue to want to support Trans Lifeline. It is translifeline.org. Here's what the organization says about itself. Trans Lifeline is a grassroots hotline and microgrants 501c3 nonprofit organization offering direct emotional and financial support to trans people in crisis for the trans community by the trans community. And as I've said before, the vicious and cruel and pointless targeting of trans people is obviously incredibly awful to the actual people who are being harmed right now, and also just straight out of the fascist playbook of finding an other to attack and to blame for problems that are not even remotely created by this group of people who are just trying to live their lives and be happy. So I think it's important to support trans people on multiple levels. Ken?
Normally during this time of year, it's just something I've mentioned in the past, but it's unfortunately timed. I always support an organization called stbaldricks.org, the St. Baldrick's Foundation. They work in the research, support, all the kind of angles on childhood cancers. A friend of mine, Jeff Saunders, does a big charity drive every year. He's a nurse at a childhood cancer hospital in Texas, and it's valuable always, but valuable even more now. This past week on my show, The Blathering, we had our listener, who's also a great ForceCenter supporter, Addie, Dr. Addie, we call her our professor of smart things, calls in and kind of delivers some science stuff. And we talked about how the defunding or the cuts and all these things put on pause are affecting the research, but also it's more importantly, it's affecting, and I'm saying these in my dumb ways, but affecting the foundations, the actual nuts and bolts of how you get this research done. It's not necessarily that's what's stopping the research. So we're in a dangerous time where important research in all fields, but particularly in cancer research, is being stunted and cut off at the knees. And we need to be aware of that. And to me, an organization like St. Baldrick's is a place to fight that by supporting their work and what they do. They determine the most promising research to fund, and they create funding priorities to make the greatest impact for children with cancer. So just one little small sliver of the big problem, but something I've been involved with in the past, but now more important in these times.
That is great. And less importantly, Ken, can you tell people where they can find ForceCenter on the internet?
And this is a time where not just to support artists and those making art and shows, but voices and platforms, everything. We enjoy a nice, sizable ForceCenter audience where we can say and talk about things that mean things to us and hopefully mean things to you and make a small sliver of difference in the world. So now more than ever, I think it's important to get the word out too. So you can find us on ForceCenter, the word out on where we are. You can find us on Blue Sky, ForceCenter Pod, other socials as well there, but that's where we're probably the most active, or will be even more active. You can find the podcast in a lot of spots, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, our iHeartRadio. Don't love all those companies, but we're there. And that's the way the world works sometimes. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter or at our fourth wall link down below on the YouTube description page. Don't forget to like the YouTube channel if you're watching this video and subscribe as well. You can support us directly. Very important. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. That is the show. For me, you can follow me at Ken or go to my website, kennapzok.com. Find things like my shop. If you go to the shop, I have personalized copies of my book, Why We Love Star Wars. If you want to buy them directly from me and send funds to me and not Lex Luthor in his space rocket and his delivery company. That's me. Jen, what about you?
You can find my political musings on Blue Sky, Jennifer Landa, or if you like weird fingers dancing to Moulin Rouge, I post that on Instagram. Did you see that?
I love that.
Absurd. Instagram is just going to be like my fun, weird place where I can get distracted, and that's at Jennifer Landa.
There you go.
That's great. I didn't see that one. I got plans for the rest of the day. You can find me on Blue Sky at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for links to all the film stuff I'm doing and for my blog of Finish Your Monsters. And if anybody does happen to take out a Sharpie and write ForceCenter in a tote bag, send us a picture. We would love to share it. But for now, that's it. That is the show.